Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us here today on our webinar. My name is Joao Trevera. I am a senior account executive here at YCharts, and I will be taking you guys through the YCharts system today. And what we're going to be talking about is how advisors are using YCharts to collaborate on delivering client deliverables and growing their assets under management. So what that really means is we're going to be highlighting how firms can link up their home office with advisors out in the field to arm them with materials that they need, whether that be models that you guys are running internally. Maybe that is watch list of securities that you guys are using, or even simple charts on the markets, on economic data. We're really going to be focusing on how our current clients utilize this system to share information with each other, and then obviously win new business and bring on new prospects. Now, I'll switch over here. We'll go through this deck. As an introduction, again, my name is Joao, and my goal is to help advisors evaluate and optimize their investment research and client communications. Me and my team, we take a consultative sales approach to ensure that our clients get the maximum value from YCharts and the many tools that we have available in our system. Now, our agenda for today is we're going to focus on kind of three primary areas during the webinar, and they're not going to be in this specific order, but we're definitely going to touch on all three key points. So first and foremost, as I mentioned, how you can align your teams in the field or in the home office with the portfolios that you're running, research lists, and how that information can be shared amongst one another. We're also going to be talking about how our clients leverage our customizable and our FINRA-reviewed reports for presenting to current clients and prospects. And then third bullet point that we'll be touching on is how you can execute and collaborate, different processes for uncovering insight, looking at new investment ideas, disseminating collateral throughout the firm. So really just kind of streamlining everything from front to end so that the home office, the portfolio management team, the team doing the research and the analysis, they are able to provide the advisors on the front lines with all the information that they need seamlessly. Now, we will leave some time for questions here at the end. So please feel free to use the Q&A chat in the webinar. I won't be answering those as we go through this, but we will answer as many as possible after the call. So let's actually jump into the YCharts system here real quickly. So coming into the YCharts database, I'm going to pull up my dashboard. Now, as I mentioned, a big focus of this webinar is talking about how teams can collaborate with one another. And we'll be focusing on, the presenting side and arming your advisors with reports and portfolios. But anything in YCharts can be shared with one another. So for those of you that aren't familiar, what you have access to in the YCharts system from a data perspective is the North American exchanges. So the US and Canada. Any stock, any ETF, any mutual fund, we will have closed-end funds and REITs with UITs in this database. We also will have thousands of indices in this system, as well as over 400,000 different economic indicators. Now, the nice thing about the YCharts system is any of this information can be shared. So if we come and look at my dashboard here, a couple of things I want to point out right away when it comes to just being able to share information with my colleagues here at my firm. So first and foremost, this system is completely customizable for an individual or for a firm. So on a firm-wide level, what we see a lot of our clients do is actually building out those portfolios that they're running. And you can see that here in this top watch list. What I've also done is I've built out some watch lists of securities that are actually in these models and securities that we want to monitor and track. So I have some sector ETFs here. I have some large cap growth funds. I have some large cap value funds as well. So to streamline this process, we can actually share this with everybody within the firm. If everyone needs to have the same type of setup and outlook, that is possible. Being able to arm your advisors in the field that are meeting with clients face to face with the list of the models that you guys are running, with a list of the securities in those models, that is very simple. What we also have the ability to do is give that advisor a little bit of freedom as well, so that they can also create their own watch list and outlook. So coming in here, you do have the ability to create different dashboards. This is a blank slate to where an advisor can have access to all the models and the underlying securities in their portfolios. They can also come in here and create a watch list of maybe some stocks or maybe just some economic data points that they want to monitor as well. So it's really up to the firm and the individual user. Now, when we talk about sharing and collaborating, I'm going to hover over the tools here, and pretty much any tool available in YCharts, you're going to be able to share and push information to your colleagues, whether that's a portfolio that you've built out, maybe it's just a simple chart that you created for a visual, or maybe you've screened down for a new group of funds that you want to make them aware of and you want to share that with them. It could also just be a table of data and information. Basically, if you build this out in our system and you save this down, you're going to be able to push it to your colleague's account so that they can look at it, also edit it, and then send it back to you so you guys can collaborate. Now, to start this off, let's just start with, being able to share watch list and information with one another. So in order to share information with a team member, that information needs to be saved in YCharts. So let's start with what we have here on my current dashboard. So you can see I have 3 different portfolios that I've built out that I want to monitor that we're running here at my firm, Joao's firm. Now, in order for me to share these with my colleagues, very simple. All I have to do is actually come up to this options dropdown and actually hit this share button. You can see I'm in a couple of different groups here at my firm, but this is going to allow me to push these portfolios over to my colleagues. And what I have the ability to do is I actually have the ability to give them the option to just view these portfolios so that it can pull them up, analyze them, break them down. I also have the ability to give them the option to edit these portfolios. This is going to allow them to make changes, which will then show up in my account. So if we're messing with new ideas, we're looking at maybe changing out 2 funds, reallocating a portfolio, changing the rebalancing frequency. My colleagues can actually make that edit in their account. It'll show up in my account so that we can look at that together. Now, that's just not done on the portfolio side of things. You'll also see that I have these watch lists of sector ETFs, large cap growth funds, large cap value funds. These can also be shared with your colleagues as well. So being able to come in here and look at a watch list and say, hey, these are some of the large cap growth funds that we monitor. I can also, again, share these with my colleagues, giving them the ability to make edits or just view this information. So absolutely anything in our system can be shared with each other, and that makes this very seamless when it comes to collaborating. Now, how would we do something like that? So let's start with kind of the watch list perspective. Now, I have a bunch of watch lists built out, but I'm actually going to come in here and I'm going to do this in our fund screener very quickly. So coming into our fund screener, let's look at how we can share a watch list or even a screen with somebody that is in our firm. So we can come in here and build our screens from scratch, but what I'm actually going to use is one of our pre-made templates. So coming up to our template library, I'm just going to select one of our equity templates, and I'm going to look at this best performing large cap funds available in here. Now, you can see that this gets me down to a good list of 36 funds right away. Now, instead of coming in here and adding my own criteria, I can definitely do that. But what I want to do is actually share this with my colleagues. So you can see the parameters I have built out here, looking at large cap blend, value, and growth funds. I've also set looking at the total return, the total NAV return, excuse me, ranking category, telling the system only show me the top half of these funds. So that's how we got down to this list. Now, in order for me to share this screen or this list with my colleagues, a couple things I can do here. First and foremost, it needs to be saved. So if I come in here, I can save this as our large cap mutual fund list. Once I save this, you'll see that the share option in the upper right-hand corner is going to give me the ability to share this with my team. Just by simply clicking on this button, it'll ask me who I want to share it with, the YCharts sales team. I can actually give my colleagues the ability to edit this, and I can send this to them so that they have the ability to make changes. So now for my colleagues, what they're going to be able to do is they're going to be able to come into their YCharts accounts, come up to the tools section, and come to our fund screener, and they're going to be able to access that screen that we just saved. So coming into their accounts, being able to come down here and say, okay, you know what, we want to pull in that large cap screen that we just created. You can just say this one for the time being. Not sure if that's the right one, but this is going to be the one that is available to my colleagues as well. So simple watch list or screen, it'll actually give them the parameters that I'm looking at. They'll be able to come in here and make these edits or changes, and they have the ability to save this down as well and push it back to me. So just from the ability of arming somebody with, hey, here are the parameters that go into our screening process. If a client is ever asking you, well, what are you guys looking for when you are looking for, you know, some of these funds that are in my portfolio? You're arming your advisor out in the field with not only a list of some funds you've screened down for, but the specifics in here as well, and the criteria that you're looking to get this. What you also have the ability to do is that if you don't want to save the whole screen with somebody and you just want to save the watch list, you're just going to save this watch list to your account. Once you save this watch list, it will give the ability to push this watch list over to your colleagues. So coming back over to my dashboard over here, I can come to any of these watch lists that I have saved, and I can actually push these to them so that they can access this information on the fly. So being able to say, okay, that large cap growth watch list that I have, I want all my colleagues to have that in their account so they know the funds that we're working with or the funds that we're monitoring. Now, that's not just done with watch list or screeners. This can also be done with any of these other tools available. So again, taking something like, you know, these watches that we have available in here, let's take this sector ETF list and let's kind of do some quick sector performance, you know, over different timeframes to see who's performing the best. So I'm going to take this sector ETF list and we're actually going to pull this into our comp tables tool. Now, for simplicity, what we're going to look at here is I just want to evaluate, you know, trailing returns for these different sectors going back. So I can come in here and pull down a saved metric set that I have available in here, and we're going to look at this trailing total returns down at the bottom. So by clicking on this, it's going to pull in the trailing returns for these funds. So you can see everything from a month to date, 1, 3, 6 months, year to date, 1 year, and then we're looking at an annualized 3-month, 5, 7, 10, 20, and all-time annualized return. So quickly, I've been able to pull in this list of sector ETFs. Now we can come in here and kind of look at this from a year-to-date perspective and organize this and say, what are the best performing sectors and the worst performing sectors year-to-date? So year-to-date, our worst performing sector, you know, consumer staples, we can see here at the top with, you know, just about an 8% return year-to-date. All the way down to the bottom, our best performing sectors are going to be real estate and energy leading the way, just about at 35%. Now, even something like this analysis into a table can be shared. That same option up here in the upper right-hand corner can be pushed over to my colleagues so that they can access this data in their own account. It doesn't have to be just tables and watch lists though. Visuals can also be shared with one another. So taking this same type of idea, let's run this same type of analysis, maybe with a chart to give us a visual component to this. So coming into our fundamental chart again, I'm actually going to pull up a save chart that I've created in here. And we're going to use those same sector ETFs that we're looking at. So pulling in sector ETFs, I have 12 different sectors. And you know what? We're going to make this a little larger. Let's make this a large chart here. And now, again, we're looking at performance of these different sector ETFs just from a visual standpoint. So if it's data driven and it's tables and your advisors like the raw data and numbers, you can share a table with them. If you're sitting down with a client and you want to highlight a chart and you want to simplify this form and you don't need just all the raw numbers and data, we can do that through a simple chart. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be details, fundamental data, or it can just be a pure play performance chart as we have here. You're always going to have that option to share with your team in the upper right-hand corner. Now, a lot of that we just covered is all on really the individual security level, sharing a screen with somebody, sharing a table of securities with somebody, sharing a chart with somebody. That's all great. But where we really see our clients find the most value with something like this is on the portfolio side of things. So with that in mind, let's kind of transition over to our model portfolios and show you how we can not only share portfolios with each other, but then also use some of those reports to communicate the strategies with our clients and prospects. So any portfolio that is built out in the YCharts system, whether it's the models being built by the home office, your home office, the investment research team, your portfolio managers, doesn't matter. Whoever is controlling and doing most of the monitoring and analysis with the portfolios, they're going to have access to a system like YCharts to where they can build out the portfolios and make those changes. As they're making those changes and building out the portfolios, they're going to have the ability to push these over to the advisor's account so that they have access to these as well. So being able to come in here and make a change to a portfolio that you guys talked about, maybe it was a quarterly change, maybe it was a change at the beginning of the year, you can make that change and give that access to your advisors. Now, the advisors like having access to these because these become very interactive. If I'm sitting down with a client, I can come in here and say, well, let's look at the portfolio or the model that we have you in today currently, and let's talk you through how it's done. So if we're looking at, year to date, how my portfolio is done, we can see this purple line here, it's up 12%, underperforming the benchmark that I have in there, but we can kind of break this down and see why. That benchmark being the S&P 500, my portfolio is actually closer to a 60-40 in allocation between bonds and equities in here as well. Now, you'll have all the information that you need from a risk perspective. So your standard deviation, Sharpe ratio, Sortino, alpha, beta, and different timeframes, that's available for the portfolio. If we want to break this portfolio down on performance and look at cumulative returns, periodic numbers, maybe annual, year by year, how did it do in 2011? How did it do in 2019, 2020? If you want to highlight the equity exposure and talk through the sector breakdown or style breakdown, or talk them through the credit quality or bond maturity in their portfolio, all that information is available and can be shared with one another. So the portfolios are in here, easily able to be managed. For the advisors, they can actually get pretty interactive and pull up the visuals through a simple chart. Being able to say, okay, what did this portfolio do during this past 18, 19 months during the coronavirus crisis? Using our quick flow tab over here on the right, you can click on this coronavirus crisis, and it's going to take your model or your portfolio that you're running, and it's going to actually pull this into a chart for us. It's going to compare it against the 3 major US indices, the Dow, NASDAQ, and S&P. You can actually even clean this up to a degree and maybe just select one index if you'd like, or even a blended benchmark. You can also come in here and adjust the date range. If I want to take this back to the beginning of January. And now what I have in here is a visual of my portfolio versus the S&P. And we're actually looking at this percent off high, which is acting as a drawdown of sorts. From peak to trough, what was the pullback from high to low? The S&P down 34%, my portfolio itself down 25%. So we can visualize the risk that we took on and those low points of the portfolio. And then also being able to look at the upside and how it's performed off of those lows. So once the models are actually in here and they're pushed out to the advisors have the ability to get interactive with their clients when they're meeting with them and actually break this down, whether it's on a composite way like this and looking at a chart, or if you actually want to look at the holdings and get into the holdings and see what's performing and what's not performing. All of that is really a button or 2 button clicks away, and very easy to navigate to give the advisors, a little more ammunition or, some storytelling ability. Well, why is the portfolio performing well? Let's take a look. We can come in here again and look at this year to date. I can see how the portfolios perform. There's that, 12% that it's up. My biggest winners, no surprise in here, real estate, SPY. My biggest losers, gold. So just giving the advisor the ability to quickly pull up the model that they're presenting to a client, analyze the holdings in different ways, whether that be a table, whether that be a chart. That's something that our clients really like and is super powerful. Now, obviously, when you are meeting with a prospect or a client, you don't want to leave them with nothing. You do want to leave them with, something that they can take home and something that is tangible. So where that comes into play is in our report capability in the upper right-hand corner. Now, we mentioned in the beginning of the webinar that we'd have customizable reports, and we also have FINRA-reviewed reports as well. And I'm actually going to share multiple reports with you guys here today. So besides being able to arm the advisors with watch lists, screens, the models that they're running, they're also going to be able to generate side-by-side comparisons and overviews of these portfolios that we're talking about. Now, to start with a comparison, let's say we are speaking with that prospect and we're working off of their statement. They've sent us their statement and what they're currently holding, and we want to compare it to, our model that we're going to be recommending to them. What I would recommend is using these comparison reports. And the most popular one that we see used is actually our side-by-side comprehensive report. This is available with a benchmark or without a benchmark. I'm going to select mine with a benchmark. As I click in here, I'm going to need to select the other portfolio that we're going to compare this to. So I have John Smith's current portfolio. I'm going to type that in. We uploaded his portfolio into the YCharts system before I met with him. Maybe it was just the day before, but he sent that over to me. As I click on this, I'm actually going to make this report specific to John. So with these reports, besides just, having the ability to customize these with a firm logo, changing the color scheme in them to match a firm logo, you can also have cover pages on any of these reports. They look very clean. You'll have a logo up here in the upper left-hand corner. It'll actually tell us what we're looking at. So we're looking at, Joao's model portfolio versus John Smith's current portfolio. It gives us a date. So this was prepared for John by me, and it has September 16th, 2021 on there. You do not have to have a cover page on any of these reports, but it is an option for everyone. Now, as we actually get into these reports, what we're going to have is all of the information available in our system now consolidated into a proposal of sorts. So to start here, we're actually going to compare these two portfolios off of performance. So we have a 10-year cumulative chart showing these portfolios against each other and its benchmark. We're looking at periodic returns, so year to date, 1, 3, 5, 10, 15 years. You'll look at annual returns, year by year performance going back, and then some key statistics for the portfolio. Things like expense ratio, distribution yield, net cash allocation. That's available here in this right-hand corner. As we get into the other areas of this report, everything does become a side-by-side comparison. So we come to this report and we have, okay, my portfolio versus what you currently have. And this becomes an easy talking point to highlight key differences between the two. It doesn't always have to be all about performance. We can clearly sit here and say, you know what, we're going to get you more diversified. We need to get you some more exposure to fixed income. You're about 4% right here. I want to get you closer to 30. Our geographical exposure across these two portfolios is actually quite similar, so not much to worry about there as well. But now you can just highlight the differences between what you're proposing to where they are. Whether you're touching on things like style exposure, or you want to touch on that fixed income exposure and how you are giving them more exposure to that compared to where they're at now. Right now you can see they're holding a lot of cash. They have a 22% in corporate bonds, some in government, some in derivatives. Well, we're going to be more focused on government. We're going to do some in corporate, holding a little bit less cash, and we have some securitized fixed income as well. Stock allocation, sector breakdown, that's available in here, but all the information available for the portfolios are just consolidated in here so that you can actually walk a client through what's different between what you're proposing to what they have. The risk section will break down all that risk information for us on different timeframes, Sharpe ratios going back over different timeframes, drawdowns between the portfolios on a side-by-side comparison. You will get into a risk versus reward section, looking at the return versus the standard deviation, again, during different time frames, 1, 3, 5, and 10 years, as well as an all-time look back as well. Now, because you can share pretty much everything in a system like YCharts, these reports in here are also specific to each firm. We will give our clients, multiple versions of these, but for each firm, you do have the ability to build out custom reports. If you want a 2-page overview that is focused specifically on performance and risk, that's possible. That's something that you can generate. If you're having a conversation with a client strictly around, allocation and how the allocation of your portfolio is a better fit for their risk tolerance, that's something that you can show them as well. So different ways that you can display these portfolios in different reports. And just like being able to share a model, you can share reports with each other saying, I want to build out a report, that's 3 pages long, specific to our firm, and I want all my advisors to have it. That's something that you can do with this system. Now, it's not always a comparison in YCharts. Sometimes you're just meeting with that client. It's a quarterly meeting, it's an end of year meeting, it's the beginning of the year, but you want to talk them through what's going on with their portfolio, making sure that it's meeting their goals. Well, all we're going to do for that is we're just going to use our overview reports in here. Now, we're going to start with our FINRA approved reports. So we do have FINRA-reviewed reports here in our system, a overview as well as a side-by-side comparison. So for our clients in the broker-dealer world, no worries, we do have you covered. We will put your disclosures in language, anything that you need on here, but you are going to be able to use these as well. Now, with something like this report, we're not comparing it to anything except for maybe a benchmark, but we can still make this specific to our client. So being able to type in John's name, this is going to generate a cover page for me as well. And it's going to give us that same type of information that we're looking at, not only in this side-by-side comparison, but the same information that we have available in the system. The performance, the allocations, the holdings overlap. That's the type of info that we can get in there. So let's take a look at this. You can see this is one of our FINRA-reviewed reports. It does, again, have a cover page on it. I like to have a cover page on all my reports. But as we scroll down, we get into that same performance section as that last report. So again, looking at cumulative numbers, periodic, annual returns, we get into key stats area about the portfolio. Besides adding a logo in here, we can change color schemes. If the color scheme for your logo is blue and red, we'll make sure we get that in there for you. If it's black and yellow, we can do that as well. Now, as we get down into these other areas, you'll see, fundamentals, allocation breakdown in here, geographical exposure, market cap, style, all that same type of data and information still available in here, but we're not comparing it to, another portfolio or another fund. We're just taking a snapshot of this specific model that we're running. So for advisors in the field, they have access to pretty much everything they need to communicate with current clients and prospects. You want to pull up a portfolio, show them how it's done over the past month and its performance, you can do that. You want to generate a report and show them the full breakdown and what their style exposure is, what sectors they're exposed to, what the fixed income analysis looks like, what the risk reward looks like. That's also possible as well. Obviously, with these reports, we can get into the holdings and get holding specific. So not just talking about the composite and how the portfolio is overall doing, but what are the actual holdings doing? So we have that here, and it gives me the actual holdings in my portfolio. It shows me how it's allocated. And then I have some performance numbers here on the right. So everything from, a 1, 3, 5, 10, and all-time annualized performance kind of lined up here for the individual holdings. You'll also get end of, quarter performance for those holdings in here. And then as we scroll down, total NAV returns as well for these funds. You can get into expense ratios and fees. Is there any maximum front load? What is the deferred load in here? If that's information that you need, if it's associated with those funds, you'll have that available in here as well. So pretty much any detail that you need is going to be available for you to pull up on the fly, or obviously generate a PDF and get this into the hands of your clients. Some of our clients out in the field do like to use this system on an iPad or a tablet. So this is completely web-based. You do have that ability. If you can't print out this report for your client, that's fine. You do have the ability to download this, and you can just send it to them in an email as an attachment. So you don't need to have a printer. It doesn't need to be a hard copy. This is something that you do have the ability to take folks through interactively and then still send them home with something that they can use. So different ways that our clients are using the system to, display what they're doing and display their value to their clients, but then also collaborate with one another. If you do have a change that you are making to a portfolio, if you are speaking with an advisor and that advisor needs to add in, maybe their client has a large stock holding for a company that they work with. Well, what you have the ability to do is actually make that adjustment. So I can come in here and I can tell something like the YCharts system, okay, you know what? They have a large stock holding. So I'm just going to duplicate this current portfolio that we have in here. Let me actually do a different one in here. Let's back up for 1 second. So if I have John Smith's current portfolio, we can come in here and I'm going to duplicate this. And maybe in his portfolio, he has a large allocation to, I don't know, we'll say Exxon. Works for Exxon. We'll plug that in. We're going to take about 5% off of that. We're going to say he has a 5% allocation to Exxon. So what you now have the ability to do is if somebody does have a large holding for a specific company or a specific fund, something that was grandfathered to them that they have access to, you can actually incorporate that holding into your model to give them the full picture. You know what? That holding that you have, your company, the stock that you own with them, let's actually show you what that looks like with the rest of your portfolio. So you have the ability to display what you're going to be offering. You also have the ability to take what a client currently has and combine it with your own model and then present it back to them. So for sharing information with each other within the firm, this thing is absolutely phenomenal. For adding on to that and showing your clients the value as well and showing them, well, this is what we offer, but knowing with your goals and what you're trying to accomplish, this is what we would do. These are maybe some of the tweaks that we could make. So I could upload this. This will finish calculating for me, and I can take my client through their portfolio with that current holding. Or I can even share this with my research team back home. If I want to share this with my colleague back home and say, hey, this is a larger holding we didn't know the client had, what do you think about the portfolio? Does it still meet their goals? Are we still in line with their risk parameters? That can be done as well. So different ways that our clients like to utilize this sharing capability. Sometimes it's just presenting information. Sometimes it's collaborating to add in the security, take a security out, customize it for the client that you're speaking with, but you have multiple options using a system like YCharts. We'll let that finish calculating here for a second, and then we'll go back to it. Going to take a minute or two, but as you can see, there's many different ways that firms are able to collaborate and set their advisors up for success. It doesn't matter if there's, one person in the home office that is doing a lot of the ongoing analysis and trading and making changes to the portfolio. They can get that information into the hands of their advisors that are client facing and meeting with the clients on a regular basis. We've really streamlined this to where you don't need to be emailing each other reports and information back and forth. It can all be done within the YCharts system. Being able to pull up a portfolio, make an adjustment, send it to your colleague's account. Being able to create a screen, save it down, send it to your colleague's account. That's what the system is meant to do. And you have the ability to do that with any of the tools that you see in our system. It doesn't matter if you guys want to set up the same dashboard that looks the same, the charting capability that we covered, the screening functionality, or simple tables. Basically, create it, save it, and you're going to be able to share it and collaborate with others within the firm. Now, I'm not sure if there's any questions. Let me look at the chat box here. But if there are any questions, we'll kind of open it up to questions at this time and see if anyone had questions just about sharing capability or anything that we covered here today in YCharts. So we do have a question here from Byron. Does YCharts provide monthly standard deviation on funds? Yes, it definitely does. So you can actually get monthly or daily standard deviation. I'll give you a quick look here. We type in just a mutual fund. Let's use the Dodge & Cox stock fund. So a great way to find that information, Byron, is coming into our data tab right here. This is going to be like a search bar for you. What I would recommend is just typing in what you're looking for. So we can say, standard deviation. And let's get more specific. And I want to type in standard deviation. Let's do 1 year look back in here. If you come into this browse button and we do this again, click on risk metric and we say standard deviation. I didn't mean to do that. Excuse me. Monthly. We can pull this information in if you're looking 3 years, 1 year, all time. You can see the monthly returns, different frequencies. But yes, that is going to be available in here for individual funds and for portfolios as well. Exporting a current portfolio. Can we export a current portfolio? I'm not sure what that question is, Samuel. Yes, we can. So any of these portfolios that you create in here, if it is a model, it can be exported out to Excel and to our add-in. I will give you an example here. Let's take this fund dashboard that we have here and my models that we have available in here. So these are 3 different models that we're running. I'm actually just going to take these into our comp tables tool like we did earlier. And what we'll plot out is something simple. Let's do a 6-month total return, do a year-to-date total return. Let's do a standard deviation as well on a 1-year look back. So I have my portfolios in here. Here are my portfolios that I'm running with those metrics that I'm looking for. I actually have the ability to export this out to our Excel add-in or macro, or just export out the raw data as well. But you do have the ability to basically take anything in our system and export this out. Show you what this looks like. Here we go. So these numbers here on the left are my actual portfolios that we're looking with. And you can see it's actually pulling in that standard deviation, the year to date, and the 6-month total return for my portfolios that I have in here. So it can be in the Excel add-in in our syntax to where I can save this spreadsheet down on my computer and it will update automatically for me. Now, other question that we have, Byron, with LPL Financial for the SMA managers, do you have that in the system, or do we need to download holdings into YCharts? So we do have SMAs in the system, Byron. Those are a added fee in YCharts. You can see if we come in here and look at some separately managed accounts, you will see that information available in here. It is an extra fee in the YCharts system to add SMA data. Also see a question about a risk questionnaire available. No, there are no risk questionnaires available for clients in YCharts, not something that we provide. Exporting out a LPL portfolio holdings. Yes, you can do that. Simple export from LPL Allbridge, the system that you're using, and a quick import into YCharts is something that you can do. What you have the ability to do is export out those current holdings. And then when you come in here to create a portfolio, you're going to come to this blank model here up top. And we actually give you an upload feature that is going to ask you to plug in the ticker symbols that your client owns, the dollar value, weights, or shares. So I'm not sure if you guys can see this because it is pulling up an Excel spreadsheet, but basically this upload data button right here is just giving me a spreadsheet to where I can drag and drop in the ticker symbols my client owns with the dollar value, shares, or target allocations. If you guys aren't able to see that, please follow up with me after the call. I don't mind jumping on a phone call with anybody and kind of showing them how to do this. Hopefully I was able to answer most of the questions in here. If you do have additional questions, please feel free to reach out to us. You can start a free trial with us at www.ycharts.com. Please feel free to give us a direct call as well at 866-965-7552. And if you'd like to reach me directly and you'd like to go through another demonstration, one that is more catered to your firm, you can reach me at joao@ycharts.com, JOAO@ycharts.com. But thanks everyone for joining here today. If you have additional questions, please remember to reach out to us. We'd love to speak with you and see how we can help. Thanks.